It's Neal DiPentino here with Business Breakthroughs. I've got, I think, one of the most exciting shows I've had in some time today. At least I'm really super excited about the guests that we have. My guest today graduated from West Point. He was an infantry officer. He entered the monastery, became a monk, and then later became a successful business person. I'd like to introduce today the founder of Monk Coach, my friend David Duncavage. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Neal. I'm looking forward to talking to everybody.
Outstanding. I kind of we've had a couple of different conversations offline. We talked a couple of weeks ago. You told me a little bit about yourself and your past, and then I took some time, looked at your LinkedIn page, and then we just had another conversation. And I got to tell you, you're a really super interesting guy. So you started off at West Point, right?
Yeah. So some people say I didn't make my mind up, but whatever. I just said, well, it's just a journey.
Yeah.
It's no making mind up. Please go ahead.
Well, I think it's a systematic type thing in the way I look at it. It's and the things that you've done, the one thing I think that the commonality in everything that I see that you've done, we're going to get in this a little bit more. I want you to tell our guest our listeners a little bit about yourself. But I think in everything that you've done, you have to be very disciplined. And that's what I really, what I got out of everything that I saw. But before we get into too much, let's learn a little about you, Dave. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Well, like you said, I'm a graduate of West Point, and while I was at West Point, I don't usually tell this story, but I get a kick out of talking to you. But I played football at West Point, so I was a linebacker, and I still have records and all that wonderful stuff. After one of the games, we were running off the field, and people used to throw their chin straps to the group of handicapped children that would be there. And I always did that. But for some reason, I stopped and handed it to a kid who was severely handicapped, and it just drove me nuts. I couldn't get it off my mind. That's the thing that sent me to the monastery, just asking questions. Of course, when I got to the monastery, all I got was silence, and the monk taught me how to meditate. So. So I was, after I graduated, I was an infantry officer. Then I actually became a finance officer for a while. And then when I got discharged is when I joined the monastery. So, and then did a very short thing. So I was in the monastery for several years. And then I went to Japan to study. And I wound up getting married.
Wow. So.
And then I started my business career.
So you're really well rounded. So obviously this didn't all happen overnight. So you were in the military after West Point. You were in the military. You were an infantry officer for some time.
Yeah.
And then I think you told me that you were in the monastery for 6-7 years after that.
About
and then went on to Japan, where you started worked in several businesses, started several businesses. Yeah. So what takes a guy from West Point to, okay. And so what led, so now you did all these things. You did the West Point, you did the military, you did the monastery, then you did business. How do you get from point A to point where you are right now?
Well, when I was, I'll back up a little bit because there's a lot to talk about. But about third year in my doctoral studies at Harvard, Texas Instruments called me. And as the Godfather said, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I had 2 kids, and I was getting a little tired of writing these esoteric papers that the only people that read them were the professors. So I accepted, and Texas Institute sent me back to Japan. So I was in Japan half the year, and back in America half the year, where my lovely Japanese wife raised our kids and a very, very active Labrador Retriever. So, and after Texas Instruments, I was with a lot of startups. One company that we were around 40 million, we got it to 160, and I was in charge of business operations in Asia and stuff like that. So, And then most of my other positions were in tech. In the beginning, mostly semiconductors, and then I've also did work in desalinization and superconductivity. And so I did a turnaround with another West Pointer, and around 2017, we decided to it's enough is enough, and that's when people said, "Why don't you start coaching?" And I thought about it, and I did some training with some people, and so here I am. That's in a nutshell. I know there's a lot of cracks in that you might want to ask me to fill in, but
Yeah.
that was basically it. But let me toss it over to you to see what direction you'd like to bring this in.
Well, I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
you started your business practice, your business coaching, and so what type of businesses do you generally work with today?
Well, when I started my coaching business, executive coaching, and I was planning to companies, startups that need going to that initial hockey stick, so to speak. When brilliant founders start a company, there's a lot of things that got to happen to bring it to the next level. So that's what I thought I would do. But then my first client was an owner of a $900 million real estate company that was relocating from the West Coast to the Austin area. And the one after that was we coaching for over a year now. He was a VP at JP Morgan. So
Oh
it
wow.
just went in a different direction. So um, I'm more interested in people that are looking to live a holistic life. You
Okay.
don't have to strand your family. You don't have to be a jerk to your business. There's a lot of great stuff on the internet now about leadership, and I know Harvard and Forbes have written articles based on neurological studies about how good leaders are also very compassionate and very empathetic, and that's a key part of the whole mindfulness world and stuff. But again, I offer that to people because not everybody's interested in it, and there's dozens of different techniques out there. Some good and some are kind of whatever. Um, but so that's kind of where I am right now. Uh, is that answer your question?
Absolutely. So here's the thing. I've always heard, and it's something that I've learned in my life, is that in order for you to be a good leader, you have to learn how to serve.
Oh
Would
yeah,
you say that that's a correct statement?
yeah, yeah. You've got to serve, and
Yeah.
you've got to have empathy. You got to have the ability to be empathetic. You got to you know put yourself in their shoes, and you have to be looked more as a teacher on steroids than some leader saying follow me up the hill.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so it's really important to. Uh, the other thing is, you see it a lot. Pass the baton. You know, all leaders, and I'm not just talking about the C-suite or the VP level or the direct anybody that has a small group of people. These leadership principles and principles of working together with people applies to everybody across the board. So once I think the leadership team gets that in their head, they can move their company along a little quicker. I think so.
So, in a sense, as a leader, you basically are kind of training your replacement to some extent, in that
Yes,
obviously they're
always,
not going to be around
always
forever,
train.
and if you want the company to live on, you've got to train people to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. You always got to be training a replacement, and I, I had to start. We were building this really interesting laser-based inspection unit here in Austin, uh, and it required us to ignite a mixture of gases in thin air and in a chamber, but we couldn't figure out a way to do it that wouldn't contaminate everything because this had to be like really pure stuff. And all the accomplished engineers were trying all these things. None of them worked. And we had a program in the summers where we'd hired interns So one of the interns was really interested in this project, and I said, "Hey, here's the ball. Run with it. Let's see what you can do." Make a long story short. After several months, or maybe 9 months, I don't know what it is, he not only fixed the problem but got a patent
Oh, wow.
for it. And he was a bright kid and all that. But that happened because when he was coming up with ideas, the older engineers that I also brought in, they were really encouraging of him, you know, because I handpicked them. And when you
Right.
have a small startup and you're growing, it takes a different type of engineer or executive to work in that environment. That's
Right.
nothing against people that want to do and not have a 9 to 5 job. But I literally had to go into the plant on Saturday sometimes and throw people out because I said, "You guys are all going to wind up getting divorced, and then I got to hire new people." And they
Hmm.
all started they all started laughing and stuff. But um,
It's interesting to me
the
that like a
key the
project
key
that
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
it's interesting to me that a project like that with that was so detailed and that you would entrust to somebody like an intern or whatever. I mean, that had to take. Um, I mean, you some probably people may have thought you were crazy for doing that, but I mean, obviously, if you listen to other people and you get them involved, they're going to participate, and you never know what you're going to come up
Oh
with.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And well, at that time, the company I was working for was a very, very large, almost $1 billion Japanese equipment company for semiconductors. So um, th- I could do whatever I want in America as long as I had results.
All
Um,
right.
but again, I give a lot of credit to, the senior engineers that saw the same thing I saw in this kid and kept fanning the flames because this wasn't the only other project. We came up with an idea and we're building it literally from scratch. So there was a whole other, I mean, that was only one technical problem. We had a number of software problems and, well, not even say problems, challenges that we
Challenges, right? Yeah.
and the product did well in the marketplace. So
Outstanding. So let's switch gears just a little bit. Now we
sure,
talked about a little bit ahead of time about the monastery and about
yeah.
meditation,
Mm.
and how in your practice as a business coach you work with business owners, and
Mm.
you offer them the opportunity to actually learn a little bit about this so they can use it in their business.
Mhm.
What does that look like, and how does that work?
Well, I'm finding out a lot of the people are doing some type of meditation anyway, if it's yoga or transcendental meditation. I have this slide that shows a post with all these signposts. I mean, there must be 10 or 12 different forms of meditation and people's interpretation of what they are, what it is. The simplest thing I told people, I said, you can kind of look at meditation like you look at athletic training. In fact, the Christian monks, they used the word ascesis, which it was uh, used by the Greek athletes, meaning training. But whatever, um, you had to with this group of people, you just really had to focus on what they want, what they need. So I focus on values are really critical for me. And what I find out is after we work through their values, work through the challenges of facing the values, and these values could be business and personal. It's up to them. And some of them put together enormous, complicated spreadsheets showing the interest. It was pretty interesting and stuff. So um, I don't know if that answers. It's over all over the map. In fact, the first
Right. Right.
I did a series of monthly meetings for academy graduates who were um, running companies, and they wanted me to talk about mindfulness because they were all confused what it really was. So that
Mhm.
was really good. We talked about time management and difference between mindfulness and meditation and all this other type of stuff because they wanted it. I don't see
Right.
myself as going in and pushing something on somebody's head. I offer it. If it's interesting, you go forward with it. So, and it's
Sure.
different when you're
Yeah.
a monk. You're meditating 6 hours a day, and the weekends maybe 7 or 8. It's a little different than if you're a normal person. You're not going to be meditating 6, 7 hours a day. Um,
Right.
if you are, I
Right.
wonder what type of
It might
work
be
you're
something
doing.
like Sure, it might be something as simple as like for me, I get up at about 4:30 every morning. I don't have to be in the office till like
Yeah.
9 or 10. Whenever I come in, I own the
Hmm.
business. Whenever I come in, I come in. Uh, I
Yeah.
don't. I'm not that. I'm a little bit more disciplined than that, but I like to spend my mornings, kind of easing into the day, and I use it time for meditation. I use it for meditation and prayer, and reflections. So that way, when I get ready to go into the day's business, I can totally focus on what my task is at hand. So there's not all this other clutter going through my head.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of clutter that's out there. We're dealing with a lot of stuff, whether it be employees or
Well,
whatever.
some of the neurological studies show somewhere around 12, some of them go up to 14,000 thoughts are generated in your subconscious and float to your conscious mind on a daily basis. That's a lot.
That's
12,000 thoughts are hitting your conscious mind. So you can
yeah,
go nuts. You need like five paddles to keep knocking them away. And so, what meditation actually helps people at is recognize you can't repress them. If you want to, if you repress them, you'll double the amount of thoughts to come up. It's like pouring gas in
oh
a
wow,
fire. You just
yeah,
recognize them and just go on to the next. And depending on the meditation
yeah,
tradition you're in, it could be just going back to your breath. And just every time your mind goes off, you go back to your breath. And that creates actually neurologically new neural pathways. And so scientists are getting pretty interested because there's stuff that monks have been doing in all religions for thousands of years seems to have a very strong scientific background to it now that they can measure it. So
yeah.
I don't know. There you go. Did I
It's kind
answer
of
your
amazing,
question?
that we're always looking for. You answer the question fine. Yeah, absolutely. You're answering all my questions just fine, David. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
But it's
Yeah.
amazing to me that we're always looking for these new ideas, the next new thing, right? In terms of how we
Yeah.
operate a business, how we live our
Yeah.
lives, how we do this, how we do that. When all we got to do is look, back. I mean, you're talking about thousands of years of history and meditation,
Yeah.
that type of thing. It's always been there for us. But we don't, we got to look at the new stuff instead of the things that have worked for forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a fair amount of misunderstanding out there what it's about. It's not about feeling happy and whatever one with the universe and stuff. It's not about that. You got to go past that. And just live a full life. So when people are around you, they want to be around you because you're giving them a lot.
Right.
Um, and you're not just giving them because you're forced to give it. It's just who you are. That's the other big thing I'm strong on is the place of compassion, and that too is being picked up by a lot of these medical magazines right now. I think was it Forbes had this article going on about the basic. Oh, it was a Harvard medical study. The basic thing people really need as a leadership is compassion, and actually that's the same in the army. It's just that people always get focused on the guns and jumping out of airplanes and all that. They don't know what it's like. So at West Point, I mean, we got it from all angles. Plus, 17-year-old kids getting to jump out of airplanes and blow up bridges. Hey, it's
Kind of cool.
great. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, you wouldn't get me. My wife laughs at me because I get up on top of a tall building and I get a little fluttery. She goes, "How could you have jumped out of airplanes and helicopters and all this stuff?" I said, "Well, I had two parachutes. If this one didn't work, I had another one. So up here, I have nothing." So
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
That's funny. Yeah, I served, and I remember when the guys were going around asking people if they wanted to jump out of planes, join airborne, and I think I can't remember if I got this right. They said like it's a 3 week training. Said the first weeks they separate the men from the boys. The second week they separate the men from the idiots, and the third week the idiots jump. something like that. Anyway, and
I really like that. That's really good. Well, I used to tell
but
people, I used to tell people in our first jump, I didn't realize there were so many Christians in my class. Everybody was blessing themselves, and then they opened up the door, and you got to jump out into the clouds. It's not,
yeah,
you
no,
know, but
no,
there's a lot of good stuff out there.
I passed on that one. I did step in line to get in. My drill sergeant grabbed me by the neck and pulled me back, said, "Nah, this is not for you." So I'm like, I was a little disappointed that I did it, but at the end of the day, I had an opportunity later in my life to do like a tandem jump, and
Oh,
I decided that yeah, I like the ground too much, but I don't want to hit it too hard. But I just like where I'm at right now. I'm good. So good for you, though. Appreciate your service there. That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
well, it wasn't much,
So
but, um,
So
but
we talked a little bit about meditation. We talked about the businesses, and now you have your coaching business. And so, uh, are you looking to expand that business, or are you
well,
pretty
yes,
much
because
set?
I started uh, about 2019 doing training and getting things up, and I had a few initial clients and stuff like that. But that's my focus right now is coaching um,
Okay,
right now, because I think that's where I could really help. A lot of companies. You know,
sure. Got a lot of stuff up here, and it's nice to share, be able
yeah,
to share it. Yeah, I got you.
yeah, and
I got you.
this is you've people have said this, not just me. A lot of people have said this is that when you really teach something in your gut, that experience actually becomes deeper for you
Hmm.
because experiences are made to be shared. They're not made to
Yeah.
be, sit. People got to miss things that monks sit on mountains and just look at their bellies and that's all they do. It's very, very, the reality is very different.
Hmm.
So, but anyway,
It's it takes a lot of discipline to be able to do anything that you've done in the past, and really for businesses, whether or not they are interested in doing meditation or whatever. I mean, just the discipline that you can help them with, you can bring to the table for them to help them run their businesses more smoothly and more
yeah.
effectively. I think that
Yeah.
means a lot.
And there's probably, there's a kind of a pretty strong generational shift right now. I know my son is, what is he? He's like 32, 33 and brilliant. He went to MIT and, he's doing a software thing. And, but that generation, they are looking at this whole world that we came from a little differently right now. And I think it's good. Um, and so they're looking at meditation and stuff like that, but my fear is they're looking at more as a tool. In
Hmm.
a sense it is, but in a sense it isn't. Now as far as as most people who are busy, there actually are neurological studies that show that even impact on your brain. So, and I tell people, you get up in the morning, you're making coffee, meditate while you're making coffee,
Hmm.
or just put yourself in that mind. If you can't sit down and have a 20-minute session, that's not the end of the world.
Right.
Uh, but after they do it, after they do that for a while, it becomes part of who they are. They begin to see other people differently, um, and they're able to listen. Because I don't know about you, Neil, but a lot of times you're in these meetings and you're not. Most people go to meetings planning how they're going to convince everybody that their ideas are right. I mean, I did it. I do it too. I mean, everybody kind of
Hmm.
does that. You think I'm right. Your goal in that meeting is to tell everybody, you know, um, the right way to do it. Or you go in with, oh God, that's John. He's going to talk about yada yada again. I really don't want to be in this meeting. Where I was really strong on when I was in the C-suite, even below that, to make sure people shut up and started listening to people because sometimes somebody says something that's really off the wall, and then like 2 hours later, somebody goes, I know this didn't have anything to do, but I kind of thought about that. That's kind of a normal thing on um, brainstorming and stuff. But I think we're headed for substantial. No, I don't know, substantial. It's too dramatic, but you know, a fair amount of change over the next 5 to 30 years is my guess. So we'll
Well,
see.
I hope I'm around to see that.
Yeah, I just see my part as trying to give people, and I'm going to use the word I didn't want to use, have the tools or the knowledge to go because all this these traditions, business practices are very different than being. I was in a Japanese company for 10, 15 years, very different than a Japanese company working for Texas Instruments, America, they have
Mhm.
TI Japan, but it's very different. So even with different cultures and communities, the leadership issues are a little different. They're the same, but they're a little different. The cultural, and of course, linguistically, obviously. But
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
it takes a lot to learn Asian languages. I mean, East European languages, you kind of guess your way through because all our adjectives and they all kind of fall there. But Japanese or Chinese, you just look up at it because gobbledygook unless you spend several years studying it. So, but
Actually, that'd be difficult. Absolutely. Well, listen, we've come to the end of our time today, and listen, I really appreciate you being on the show. Got a lot of insight from you, and if our listeners would like to get in contact with you to find out a little bit more about you and your business, how would they go about doing that?
well, you could contact me by my email, david@monkcoach.com. I also have a website, david@monkcoach.com. Um, and there are buttons there you can click and go, contacts me. And if you want to have a complimentary meeting and just get together and talk, that doesn't mean you're going to sign up to become a student, but you're just curious about something, please. I can send you'll get my calendar and find something that's convenient for you and me, and I'll be happy to talk. So,
Outstanding. Well, again, thank you very much for being a guest on our show
okay.
today. Business Breakthroughs is sponsored by Titan Media Works. Check us out on titanmediaworks.com. That's Titan Media Works, works with an X. And also check out our other great hosts on the Small Business Delivered Network, smallbusinessdelivered.com. Man, I am like struggling with my words today. I apologize about that. But join us again next time. Until then, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.